talk on preemptive marking at Brewhead Cymru. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for listening to my ideas when I initially pitched them, which was over a year ago. I'm really excited to share them with everyone. Obviously, a lot has happened in a year. And hopefully if there's a Brewhead 2 or 3, then once some of these ideas develop further, and hopefully I can be invited back. A little bit about me. First of all, I'm very fortunate to teach at Bryn Mawr Foundation School. I'm very fortunate to have my head of faculty, Teresa Pierce, who is really encouraging when I come to her with these ideas about classroom-based research and trying new things, and also very enthusiastic and helps me develop them. So as much as this talk is coming from me, it's very much coming from Teresa and other members of my faculty as well. I've been teaching English at secondary level since 2012, almost a decade for my sins. This is my second school. I've held the position of second in faculty since 2019. I've held the position of literacy coordinator since 2019. I am literacy coordinator and second in faculty, both jobs I enjoy immensely. Both are very challenging at times, but also both are very rewarding. I've previously been a second in faculty in this school from 2014 to 2017, and in between I've had stints at head of year and senior head of year on the pastoral side, and I know how much a hurricane of the pastoral system can really impact on the day and marking and time. So I'm hoping some of this will be useful for those in pastoral as well as those who are based in the classroom. If you have any follow-up questions, please get in touch at atkinsm1@hubcymru.net or at Atkins English on Twitter. So we've all been there. We spent hours teaching, planning content, teaching vocabulary, teaching, the language analysis of the specs of everything, and then pupils don't show it in their work, which then impacts what we have to do, because we have to then go back and say, well, to improve, you have to do this bit of language analysis, or do this bit of this, or do this bit of this. The idea with preemptive now is that we know the pupils, we know the pitfalls of whatever subject we teach. And the idea to preempt here is, like it says, for preempting is to preempt or forestall something. So we're forestalling the pupils making those same mistakes over and over again. And that is by disabling the enemy. And I'm not saying the pupils are the enemy. We're very much there to work with them. But we're also taking away those excuses that, not the excuses really, the kind of pitfalls we see time and time again. So preemptive marking and vocabulary. Again, this is I just want to have a quick shout out to Teresa again, because when we started talking about these ideas, first of all in the classroom, Teresa was very much on making vocabulary explicit to the teaching of the pupils. So this is something we've started doing. And if we look at some of the research behind it, I'm not going to read it to you and insult your intelligence. It's there on the screen. But, the bits in bold are really the important parts. Vocabulary is one of the most significant factors that proves relevant to children achieving an A star to C grade in mathematics, English language science, and English literature. Okay. Again, it cannot be denied that such an achievement and the failures associated with limited vocabulary are linked to a child's postcode along with a pay packet and level of academic qualification of their parents. For our most deprived children, for our ratty pupils, our pupils who are free school meals or anything, we have to give them the tools, as everyone knows, to achieve really. Again, research suggests that direct correlation between successful vocabulary immersion or becoming word-rich and upward social mobility. Vocabulary skills at age 13 then predict both maths and English results more strongly than socioeconomic background. And this is all about the teaching of the vocabulary, the implementation of the vocabulary, as well as the teaching of the content as well. The two go hand in hand to see our pupils really strive and move forward. So what is preemptive marking in a typical classroom situation? Well, first of all, the teacher explicitly teaches the language of the mark scheme to pupils. This has been a bit of a game changer really for our department, where we explicitly go and teach it in relation to preemptive marking. I'll show you why that was a bit further on. The teacher sets a piece of work providing a good model example. Again, I'll show you that bit of work. The teacher knows where the pitfalls are occur, and this is identified as your live marking. Your live marking, you're getting in amongst, you set a task, tasks all build up to each other, as we know. You set a task and straight away you're getting in, you're looking at the pitfalls of that particular class of pupil A, pupil B. Pupil A is a bit better at this, pupil B needs a little bit of this, and you're starting to make mental notes of where you're at with your pupils all the time. A teacher knows the GCSE mark scheme and is able to identify where pupils fall down historically. A couple of my examples this morning are going to be coming from the English literature. And a common one really is language analysis. And I think as English teachers, particularly in your lower sets, we are reminding pupils so much of language analysis. And then that is, we feel like we're repeating ourselves all the time. And then the pupil then is seeing the same kind of comments, really, and we're trying to preempt that comment of kind of language analysis as an example. The teacher sets a meet my high expectations and challenge. Now, the use of the word high here is really important for me. High, you has to have those high expectations of every single pupil, and the challenge then has to challenge every pupil on their level. And I'll show you a little bit what that looks like. Pupils must complete the meet my high expectation sheet. Those are the kind of go alongside with your success criteria as your non-negotiables. They have to show those things. They have to go back, check their work, and see they've done implemented those high expectations. The pupils then edit, take ownership of, and attempt the tasks of the challenge to push them and close the gaps that you want to see straight away. So you're already putting a little building blocks in with the challenge. And then finally, all reflective post-work is completed in purple pen to evidence improvements. Some pupils highlight examples. Teachers mark the assessment and any necessary dirt tasks that follow. So if a pupil doesn't have the challenge or the high expectations work, they will then evidence that. We use purple pen just so we know what skills we're checking straight away. And then your dirt then can push your pupil to that next level without having to be, okay, you need to be really doing your language analysis for this. And this is really good for kind of your middle of the road set 3, set 4 CD borderline classes. I had set 3 when I first started using this, so it was really important. And Teresa had set 4 when she started using it. She's also done it with a set 6 class, which showed phenomenal results, which I'll talk a bit more later on. So why does feedback even matter? As we know, one of the most effective tools for impacting upon and raising student attainment. Good feedback can improve the rate of learning in 1 year by as much as 50%. It needs to show them how they can get there. And this is what preemptive marking is. It's showing them how they can get there, but then how they can progress further to the next level. Okay, and that's what we all want our pupils. It'd be great if we could all have live in a world where pupils were so rich in their vocabulary and enrich in their knowledge and their understanding and their schooling that they all had A's and A stars, irrespective of where they came from. Okay, I know there's lots of other factors that go into this, but this is one element we're kind of going to look at. So modeling, and I just want to show you quickly a model that I shared with my classes in that set 3. And it's introducing them to, I model the work first before I ask them to do anything. And that's really important, particularly at literature and language. We really show them what a good one looks like, how, they can get there, how easy it is. And then, so we start with the modeling and we read through it together. Any words, paradoxically, always comes up as something that we discuss as a class. We then talk about different things like the collective pronouns, and how they have an effect. Okay, but this was my first model to the class that I share with them. Okay, and then what meet my high expectations and challenge A star really looks like. So you're preempting what's going to come up. So preemption, straight away, select and evaluate relevant textual details. Straight away, pupils can make a point, but they don't always use a quote. So we're talking about selecting and evaluating. That word evaluating, sometimes they select them that's relevant to the question, but they don't evaluate. So we put that straight away. And then we here in the language show increasingly clear appreciation of how meanings and ideas are conveyed through language, structure, and form. So this will all come in part of the teaching. On the right-hand side here, we have the teaching of the vocabulary. We go down, we drill down to what those words mean in the mark scheme, and then we teach the pupils those words, those meanings, those definitions. Okay, so we do that, and in time, that vocabulary teaching area we'll start to, you don't really need it every lesson, but in the first couple of weeks, it's very useful to have because it gives a visual reminder for pupils of what a certain word means. Okay, we then have the challenge, the A and A star. And this is really important that you kind of put the grades next to it, because every pupil really wants that A star, that A. Might not all be able to get there, at the moment, but that's what we are aiming for. So they be a challenge. So each individual people then feels challenged when they're doing a piece of work, are able to evaluate, you take it from the mark screen. You don't need me to read that out to you. Okay, so that's what it looks like to the pupils. So you give them the essay question, then you give them this sheet or a sheet similar to this, and then they go and they attempt a piece of writing. And then this is what it looks like then. So we've got this sheet here in action down at the bottom. This pupil has color coordinated their answers. So we can start to see the impact it's having. If you also see here, they've got the purple pen editing as they go through that I mentioned previously. So a pupil here has a clear understanding of the task. Pupil is able to identify or add challenges, as we can see. Pupil is actively scanning over their own work and editing. The pupil is upskilling their vocabulary efforts. There's new vocabulary acquisition is playing its part in response to the task set. So really, we have a number of different things going on. And this is what a pupil's work starts to look like. So for this part that continues. So this is a poetry response. So we've started, and poetry is really hard. So we have the question, we have then the pupils write it. And then once the pupils have written it, I always give them the challenge, meet my high expectations and challenges at the end of a piece of work. Okay, just so they can then go through and edit it. So they write what they know, and then they can start editing their own work. And then you have the dirt work then will push them on. And I'll briefly talk about dirt on the next slide now. But dirt then, dirt one there, dirt 2, dirt 3 straight away. Okay, the dirt here is probably is a repetition of the dirt above because the pupil wanted to redo it. But what you do then with your dirt is you have to push them on and to really stretch and challenge them. Dirt 1 can be show your understanding of how social, cultural, and historical context of the 1930s USA has an effect on candy. Dirt 2, evaluate how candy is important to the themes and the plot and novella. It allows you now to start pushing the pupil into this kind of higher space of answering the question, and kind of really start showing to focus them on their originality and analysis of the writer's techniques, even in an essay response. Do you have enough language references? Okay, are they wide-ranging and detailed? Okay, sorry about the and there. So it's these kind of things straight away that we're pushing them. This dirt then is not make sure you use quotation marks. Make sure you talk about language. We've got that in the modeled version here, where we're talking about frequently does bad things, but then we're also talking about the use of the collective pronouns we and us, and George's assertion that they have each other. And what I would do is I would label this modeling piece with those areas from the mark scheme on each one. So pupils then could really see where this is live. So I would put this on the board live, and then we would go through with those areas once we've had the vocabulary teaching from the mark schemes. So they have, it's like I said, we're building them up every little step of the way. And it's taking a lot of the unnecessary marking that we have, and really we're preempting the pitfalls. So because we preempt the pitfalls here, select and evaluate relevant textual details, we then don't have to put them in our dirt. Okay, we can then say, do you have enough of this, rather than make sure you're doing this. Make sure, show your understanding of this. Evaluate Candy as a character. So we're starting to hit those top band 5 marks with any kind of pupil really in front of us. And again, feedback is so important. The live feedback, they get feedback from the pupils, just again, because it's so important to the whole preemptive marking, where it's a continuous feedback loop, if you want, where everything is working in conjunction with each other. And it's really important as well to show the steps of the way with the pupils. So for a writing task at Key Stage 3, we've got meet my high expectations again. This was with a Year 9 class, so use a quote and explain in detail from extract, range of simple, compound, complex sentences we don't see. So this is that language teaching them, which is always really hard to do. And I put the ambitious and appropriate vocabulary here. And then this is what this looks like at Key Stage 3. Structure is neat and into paragraphs. She's put here, used a range of techniques to sustain the reader's interest. So she's starting to use that language within her work. Social, and she's highlighted the different things again. We always have the little errors at the top, like capital letters, but that won't become a feedback for her. And again, They tick off what they've done and the challenges when they've done it. Okay, and then I have a feedback sheet here that I highlight and make comments upon. Pupil has a clear understanding of task. Pupil is able to identify or add challenges. Pupil is actively scanning over their own work and editing. Pupil is upskilling their vocabulary. Again, sustain. And they understand what sustain means. Okay, use of the word structure, simple sentences. It's all about upskilling that vocabulary as well, in conjunction with preempting the kind of things pupils forget, because we teach them simple, compound, and complex sentences within a paragraph, but they don't necessarily always show them. We teach colon and semicolon, but they don't always show them. And if we put them in the meet my expectations rather than a dirt task at the end, then we're preempting what will come up and we can start pushing them even further. And that's the impact of Key Stage 3. And your dirt could look like different things. So, if you wanted to make the dirt a little bit where you cover a class rather than lots of different individual, you can just do this, and then you can just put it all here, and you can start pushing them on. Dirt paragraphs could be one thing where you're saying there, just focus on these different paragraphs. Dirt 2 could be focusing on your kind of your capital letters and fills. So you would put 1 and 2 in, but then also you would look really down the bottom level where you can start talking about narrative hooks. Make sure you use one of the narrative hooks we've used in class as a dirt to push them on that next bit as well. Or really look at the apostrophe for possessiveness. Okay, look at your simple, compound, and complex sentences. Look at your descriptive details. So we're pushing them on all the time. Dirt 4, new line for a new speaker. So it works a bit differently for your language teaching compared to your literature teaching, but you're always looking to push them on, and it's always really, yes, we're closing the gap, but also how are we pushing them on to the next bit. So for one pupil in a dirt could be closing the gap of, it's in the year 7 example, could be capital letters and full stops, but we're also getting year 7 to think about dirt 6, apostrophe rules for possessives, and we're also getting to look at the narrative hooks. We're also getting them to look at the simple and complex sentences. So acknowledge the mistake the pupil makes, by all means, to close that gap when it comes to it at Key Stage 3, but also push them on in so they can make more progress and they can have that specific feedback. And it's all about that specific feedback and giving them that feedback, that example, and how they could do it. Impact at results level then. For myself, I had a set 3 CD borderline class. I had 100% A star to C. I had 5 B grades and 1 A grade. Okay, so that's really important to think. It's really good that one people did really well. Within a year group, we had a year 10 early entry 70% pass rate. We had a increased year percentage of A's and A stars, so it's double the amount of pupils compared to the previous year. That was in Teresa's class, which was amazing. She doubled the amount of A to A stars in that class. We're starting to see an increase in level 6 at national curriculum level in year 9. We're looking at over 60% now, looking at straight away that kind of level 6, which is our new kind of C grade really. And then we're starting to see an increase at year 8 level of level 6 plus, which is 45%. What I will say as well, which I forgot to put on this slide, is that Teresa had a bottom set year 10 class. And within that year 10 class, it was labeled as the nurture group previously. She was able to get them D's and C grades, a couple of C grades. Okay, so it has a strong impact where we're preempting what the pupils, the mistakes they're going to make, and then how we can put those building blocks in to get them to the next level. So that's the impact for those who wanted to see the impact at results level. Adaptation to other subjects then. I'm very aware that this has been quite based on English literature and a little bit of language at Key Stage 3. So I'm currently working with departments across my school to adapt this process for their own classes. For example, we've got a geography question here, which is a 3-mark question. And we've gone for the Meet My High Expectations, where they make sure they reference the evidence from the map provided. The head of our geography is also one of the key examiners, and he said that, one of the things pupils miss the most is that they don't reference the evidence from anything provided. So he said that's got to be their number one. And then looking at other landforms in the map area, for example, what is the estuary in this context altering? Check the meaning is clear, responses must have purpose, be organized and well structured. And then we've got the challenges here. Consider the shape and width of the beach, which is wide at its western end. what impact does human activity in providing breakwaters, walls to influence the nature of coastal processes have? And then another one, what other process? He said that's your level 3 kind of marks, your top marks, really, is what other processes could pupils put? So we're pushing the pupils all along. We're meeting the expectations of the things they miss out, and then we're challenging them further. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this. Bit of a whistle stop tour. I hope everyone finds it useful. Like I said, anything you need, please get in touch with me. My emails and my Twitter at the beginning of this. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for BrewEd for having me. And hopefully everyone will stay safe. And hopefully, be able to see you soon.